Okay, one more time. Hey everyone, welcome to the horror show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Harron.
And we are here to finally present to you our comics review of Doomsday Clock. So we tried to do this last week on the day it actually came out, but unfortunately my lovely provider Cox, who was supposed to have a tech come out this morning actually, and they never showed up, never called, so that's how good they are. Unfortunately, I don't know. Nonetheless, my computer was down at the time, so we couldn't even record it. So we're doing that now. And so let's finally get into this. And Dirk, even though you started this story twice before, let's show them what you have. Because I picked up this cover, which, as you can see on the screen, ooh boy, that is the one that I got because I love Superman. And Dirk, what did you get?
I got this one.
That's the lenticular cover.
And then I got the midnight release cover as well.
Right. Which you guys can see in detail below us, of course.
And for the midnight release, they also gave these nifty posters out, too. Mm-hmm. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it's tough for the camera to focus, apparently, on just the bright whiteness of it. But yeah, so we are going to talk about this. This is the latest. Well, actually, it's funny. DC actually has two big events running concurrently now. They have DC Comics Metal, or Dark Knight's Metal, I should say, which is the Batman. It's a big crossover involving the whole Justice League and the whole DC universe, but it is mainly Batman centric, even though he himself is absent. It's difficult to explain, but I did explain it 2 weeks ago in my review of the first half of the Dark Knight's Metal series that's going on, or actually that was released last week, so check that out after you watch this. But this one is the brand new event that DC is putting out, which is apparently, well, not apparently, it is huge because it is the first time that the DC universe proper is technically going to cross over with the Watchmen universe. Which you could tell if you look at the, oh man, I gotta get my fingers right. The Rorschach cover here. Rorschach is obviously a character from Watchmen, and his face doesn't normally have the Trinity symbols on there. It's usually just a ink blot of some kind, or a Rorschach test. So yeah, let's talk about it. Now, Dirk, I'm gonna let you go ahead and give the overall of this one, like not our opinions. We'll do our opinions after, but just summarize sort of what the book was, if you don't mind.
All right. Well, there's a lot going on with this book. You have to remember that the Watchmen took place in the mid-'80s, mm-hmm. and this one is a few years into its storyline. It takes place in 1992. Spoilers about the original Watchmen. Ozymandias. He had pretty much faked like this alien invasion.
The giant squid monster.
To bring all the world leaders together, and so that there could be peace in the world, because for a while there, it was just like the Cold War was continuing. There was the possibility of like nuclear war, and Ozymandias, he said like if we could create this, basically kind of like a 9/11, that it may bring the world to harmony. Especially since he makes it seem like it's an alien invasion. Mm-hmm. So Rorschach had written this down in his journal and ended up giving it to one of the newspapers, that someday it would be published, that there was this huge lie that brought the world to peace. Mm-hmm. And now in this comic, it was part of the the journal was published, so now they know that it was all a lie, and now like the world is kind of going to shit again. Russia is invading Poland. The United States is like saying you've got 4 hours to get out of Poland, or we're going to. There's this nuclear launch that's going to take place. It's like everything's kind of out of control. The government has now taken over the news. There's only one version of the news. In the middle of all that, plus now that they said that there's possibly going to be a nuclear invasion, like all the major cities have to evacuate. Plus, there's all these people are trying to find Ozymandias to either kill him. He's kind of like a wanted man, dead or alive. And while that's all going on, Rorschach breaks into a prison to find find one specifically. Supervillain that him and his Minutemen used to fight, and break her out of prison. And she was called the Marionette, and but she won't leave because she says that she won't leave without her husband, who's he's called the Mime, and he's trying to lure them out of the prison, saying that his partner has information on the whereabouts of their son, and he said that if you can do this one thing for us, then we'll help you find your son, and you guys can be a family again.
Right.
So
that was largely what this first issue was about, and anyone that's familiar with Watchmen knows that it's odd to have Rorschach be the star of this one, because if you know why that's odd, then don't worry, that does get addressed in the comic. If you don't know why that's odd, then don't worry about it. Just enjoy it for what it is. But here's the thing: it was, to me, largely boring, because it was a return to a world that I didn't care about the first time around. So in case you guys didn't know, I am not a fan of the Watchmen. I did not like the comic. Thought the movie was pretty good, but the comic is just too much for me. It was too entrenched in its time, too politicized, too densely presented with the 9-panel format and all that stuff. I just wasn't a huge fan of it. I could never get into it. Even though I read it all the way through, it just didn't do it for me. I didn't read the text pieces in between. I'm sure that a lot of people are going to hate on me for it, but that's just the way it is. Sorry, I'm not going to go back and do it now. I don't know, maybe I will. But nonetheless, it didn't capture my attention, and so this continuation of the story all these years later, I was just kind of like, okay. Where I finally got interested was in the last, 5 pages or so, when they finally show our DC proper universe, where it's Clark, right? Clark Kent and his family, isn't it?
We see Lois Lane.
Lois Lane, okay. But yeah, and so what happens even? I can't even remember. I read it a week ago. It's already done.
Do we want to say?
Don't spoil it, but he becomes aware of something, right?
Right, something that we know to be not true in a sense, because it's like something has changed in Superman's timeline that could have possibly changed the character in a sense. So we don't really know what's going on with Superman necessarily. So or if he even is Superman, we don't really know. Like, we just see Clark, we see Lois Lane, we never see him in his suit. So I don't really know. It doesn't even does it even say? Like, I'm not really sure.
It didn't say
I
Earth
think
52 or anything, or
yeah,
Earth
and
1 or Earth Prime. Well, it might have said Earth Prime actually.
no, I don't think
see.
it did. And this also might be taking place in 1992 as well for Superman.
You think?
Yeah, I think so.
That would be interesting. Yeah.
So
The screen just went blank on us. All right. No. Oh, here we go. No, it just cuts right to it. No.
yeah,
No indication of where they are.
yeah. So, now I want to get this across because this was like when they announced the Doomsday Clock series was like in September, which it was when New York Comic Con was going on, and this was like a big announcement because like nobody knew about it. That Jeff Johns and the artist Gary Frank,
Right?
yeah, had been working on this for actually 2 years, and and
Because they first alluded to it a long time ago.
well, yeah, with the Rebirth,
Right.
which wasn't that long ago if you think about
No,
it.
that's
Like
true.
it was kind of just over the summer. So
Well, no, the button was over the summer. No,
Oh.
they alluded to the fact that Dr. Manhattan changed things a few years back, and they just haven't touched on it. No, ever since the button first showed up. That was like 3 years ago.
was that like there was the Rebirth issue. Was that
The one when Batman finds the button was the
Right.
first time. That was like
Right.
3 years ago at this point.
okay?
Yeah, it happened a while ago. They just haven't, maybe 2.5, but it's been hovering
Well,
untouched for a while.
then that was when
until the Batman Flash crossover this summer,
Okay.
which they readdressed it. It was a 4-issue crossover, 2 Batman issues, 2 Flash issues,
Okay.
called The Button.
Okay.
Where they were trying to investigate where the button came from, and Zoom came in, and Zoom was fried by Dr. Manhattan, we assume, but he's fried at the end and killed. It's really cool, but spoilers
Interesting.
for the button.
Well, and that's the thing about what Jeff Johns said at New York Comic Con, that even though they like alluded to it, this is kind of like a standalone story.
Okay.
It does bring characters from the DC universe in with the characters of the Watchmen, but it's not going to necessarily change anything in the DC universe. That's what he was kind of getting at. But what I loved that he kind of hinted at was that, 1992 was a big year for comic books. That was the death of Superman. That was the Nightfall, the breaking of the Bat. And he said that, like, if you know those
When
stories...
Green Lantern went crazy, too.
Yeah. And he said, if you know those storylines, then all I'm going to say is that you're going to be very interested in this series.
That's crazy. I had no idea that it was wrapped around that. Like,
Yeah.
I saw that it was taking place. I thought it said 93, actually, but it was, yeah. Superman died at the end of 92, and then Green Lantern and Batman happened in 93. So that's super exciting to me because... as a fan, I'm a huge Jeff Johns fan.
Right.
Huge fan of Jeff Johns. I have everything that he's done in DC, basically. And I even have a series, I think it was called The Haunted or something like that. He did like a 6-issue Top Cow horror series that was about ghosts or something like that. Anyway, I can't remember exactly what it was called, but I know I have it. Anyway, he... has been respectful of that era and almost what is the word, venerable of the, or venerate, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the right word, but he holds it in such high regard, that era of the comics, because in his Green Lantern run, when he relaunched it, he actually brought Cyborg Superman back for the first time during that run. Maybe in the mid 2000s.
Okay.
So, and so it was Cyborg Superman versus Green Lantern. He also brought the whole Parallax thing back with Rebirth, Green Lantern Rebirth, right?
You know it better than
Yeah.
me. I actually kind of...
Yeah, no, because he wrote Green Lantern Rebirth. Ethan Van Sciver drew it, and in that's where he he actually went back to when Green Lantern went crazy the first time and showed that it was the giant parallax sphere creature rather than Hal going crazy himself. So he's very respectful and loving of that era of comics. So to know that he's going back to that, even after having read it, like that makes me way more excited than all the Watchmen stuff that I got out of it.
Well, the thing is that I feel like the Watchmen was a great story for me. It actually kind of got me back into comics. Like I originally got into comics when I was a little kid, right when the death of Superman was happening,
Mm-hmm.
Nightfall, and that got me into like DC Comics, and I was every week having to like follow these stories
Mm-hmm.
and everything, and then it just like my comic book collection just kept growing because I just wanted more of like what was kind of going on in the DC universe. And then it wasn't until like it started getting a little ridiculous with like when they brought back Superman and how they brought back Superman, and I was just like, oh, I'm kind of done. And then it wasn't until like my mid-20s when I was just like, you know what, like I fucking loved comics when I was a kid. Like what? Well, I can't believe I kind of got out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I started just buying up like graphic novels like everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't even started collecting singles and weekly runs and stuff like that. And but like I was just like, you know what? Like I've taken such a break. I just need to like kind of catch up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I was just buying like graphic novels left and right. And then when Watchmen kind of came into my life, it was it was kind of a dark time for me. So just to see that like world building and all the character development and like the mystery that was kind of going on, plus like the movie was coming out like in a year, so I was just like, man, I gotta read this so so that I'm ready for the movie. And I fell in love. I actually loved all the news stories and like that they would kind of throw in these little hints at what was to come. Plus, like the pirate story that was just like
Black
this,
Freighter.
yeah, was, I thought that was interesting. Like it kind of showed you just this like man's how driven he was to survive for to get back to the one that he loved, and then just like how that drove him insane. But so I don't know. Watchmen was like a big part of my life, and then when I saw the movie, I don't know. I think it took me a couple times to like really respect it for what it was, because I just felt that it was just such a condensed version of the story, and I was very skeptical right off the bat. That I was like, how are they gonna just do this into a movie? Because like there was so many people before Zack Snyder that were trying to get it done, but like had ideas of making it a miniseries, making it like multiple seasons, and trying to get it on HBO, and now recently they've announced that they're going to have a Watchmen television show, which is interesting. I'd like to see it in a long format like that. So I'm looking forward to that, because I think that Zack Snyder's version of it, even though it is pretty, his cinematography is great, there was things that were just like I thought he did completely wrong. I did not like his portrayal of Ozymandias, and I keep messing up on his name. So I don't know. I loved this first issue of Doomsday Clock. It kind of, I feel like it really captured what the Watchmen was when it came out. I love Gary Frank's artwork.
Yeah, I love that too.
Especially since like Jeff Johns and Gary Frank working on Earth One of Batman. I thought that like they did a really good job with creating like this kind of new origin story. like, well, it's just kind of, it's not so much new, but just redefined. And I don't know. I totally dig all the detail that Gary Frank goes into, especially with like just working with 9 panels. That's just rough, and to like just really kind of capture the world around these characters, especially since like it's so heavily driven by its dialogue. So
and it's 9 panel through a lot of it,
yeah,
just like the original Watchmen was.
and I don't know. I can't say enough about this issue, especially like I love that there's the articles in the back with the newspaper clippings and stuff like that, where once again it'll probably hint towards things later that are going to happen later on in the story. There isn't like a Black Freighter story that's kind of going along with it, not yet anyways. So but we'll see. I don't know. I just, especially since like Jeff Johns already kind of like said at Comic-Con that well, he hinted towards that, like maybe the death of Superman and Nightfall might play a role in the story. It just makes me think of like all the possibilities. So
That's awesome. Well, that's exciting. So yeah, guys, if this sounds interesting to you, the first issue is still out there, still available. Make sure you go run and jump on board. If you liked Watchmen, get on board. If you like DC, get on board. It seems like it's going to try and please a little bit of everyone. So I'm excited to read the rest, especially now knowing what you just described. So I'm definitely glad we did this review. I'm not sure where all of our light went, but it's a lot darker all of a sudden. So there we go. That'll help.
Hey now.
So anyway, Dirk, would you recommend it to people?
Definitely. If you're
Even if they're not Watchmen fans.
You know what? Like, if you're a Batman, Superman fan, I know that this first issue focuses mainly on like Watchmen characters, but like what I told you, the possibilities of like where Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, possibly Green Lantern could pop up in the story. Mm-hmm. We don't really know. That's what I loved about that they announced it so early to its launch, because like it just kind of took everybody off guard. So yeah, speculations are in this,
yeah, there you go. Well, if you have read it, guys, let us know in the comments down below what you thought of the first issue. Again, try not to spoil for people that haven't read it yet. If you haven't read it, but you now are interested to, let us know that in the comments down below, too. We like to have conversations with our viewers. So thank you guys very much for watching. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
Derk Harron.
We are currently in our Cyber Monday sale. It is still going on this whole week, I believe, or at least for the next day or two, on our TeePublic site in the description box down below under merch store. Just click that link. You'll be supporting the channel and you'll get some really cool swag that you can still get in time for Christmas if you select that correct shipping option. So thank you guys very much for watching, and remember, stay scared.